Hi everybody, I'm Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make Emily's wave blanket. This has many beautiful colorways in it. The stitch is an easy repeat. It is still an intermediate project because it does require some counting, but I think you're going to really enjoy this. I would even encourage confident beginners to give it a try. I think you will really like this. If you're looking for the kit with the specially dyed yarn, please check my video description below. These are available courtesy of lambshopkits.com. And if you don't want to do that, you're always welcome to use your own yarn. This could make an excellent stash buster project as well. The yarn weight that I use is a DK weight, but feel free to use worsted should you decide to do that. Just make sure that you upsize the hook to match the yarn choice. Well, let me go ahead and show you what you're going to need. For this project, I'm going to be using a yarn kit by Lamb Shop Kits that includes 8 variegated shades of the blue. This is specially hand dyed for this project. Now, if you want to use an alternate yarn, please check the video description below and I'll be sure to have all the yarn requirements needed for this project. For this project, I recommend that you have a size H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. And as always, I recommend that you have a yarn needle and a pair of sharp scissors handy. To begin, I'm going to be using the darkest colorway, and I'm going to be using my H hook. And let's go ahead and start with a slip knot. And my starting chain is going to be 121. And you want to make sure that you crochet this kind of on the looser side. You don't want this to be very tight. Now, if you tend to crochet your chains very tightly, you may want to get a larger, just one size up size hook, and then return to the gauge hook once you complete the chain. That way the chain will be loose enough to crochet in. Now, if you normally crochet chains just at normal tension, then you should be fine. After working those 121 chains, we are going to start in the second chain from the hook, and we are going to single crochet in each chain across. At the end of row 1, you should have 120 single crochets. At the beginning of row 2, we're going to chain 2. We're going to skip the first single crochet, and we're going to work a double crochet in that second chain, just like that. Now we're going to work a double crochet decrease over the next 2 stitches, like this. I'll go more slowly this time. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So we have a double crochet and then 2 of the double crochet decreases. Go ahead and give it a chain 1. Now we're going to begin our puff stitches, and the way we do this is we wrap the hook, insert, pull up a loop, wrap the hook, insert, pull up a loop, wrap the hook, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, close up the puff stitch, and then give it an additional chain. And we're going to do that 4 more times so that we have a total of 5 of the puff stitches. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all the loops on the hook, close the puff stitch, and then give it an additional chain. Yarn over, and notice I'm pulling up the loops to what would be the height of a half double crochet, or about 1/2 inch. Pull through all the loops, close the loop, and don't forget to give it an additional chain.
close the puff stitch, and then give an additional chain. So we have 4. We need to do 1 more. Yarn over, pull through all the loops, close up that puff stitch, and then give it a chain. Now we're going to return to working the double crochets, the double crochet decreases, and we're going to work 6 of those, so 6 sets of 2. So I'll go ahead and wrap the hook, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and do that again. 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Okay, that's 1. That's 2. And let's do another one. Okay, so now we have 3 of the double crochet decreases. We need to do 3 more. Yarn over, pull through all 3, so that's 4. That's 5. And that's 6. And I like to verify to make sure that I did that correctly. So that was my puff stitch. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of the 2 or the decreases where you have the 2 double crochet decreases. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the puff stitch. Before we do that, we need to chain 1. Make sure you make a chain before and after each of the puff stitches. So we're going to go back to the 5 puff stitches. 1, 2, 3, pull it through, close the top, and do a chain, wrap it, don't forget wrap it, insert, pull up a loop, wrap it, insert, pull up a loop, wrap it, insert, pull up a loop. You can make a song out of that. Not a very good song, but nonetheless, but anyway. Okay, so we're going to do this 5 times. Let's go in the right space. And that's 4 of the puff stitches and 1 more. And I forgot to make an extra chain. Let me back up. I think it's okay to make the mistake with the camera running because this is a consistent mistake that I have made occasionally. So it's okay, just as a reminder that it's going to be a tendency. So just make sure that you do have those chains in between. So we close the puff stitch and then an additional chain because that really does help to space the stitches out. Okay, so now that is your repeat all the way across the row. I've just completed the 5 puff stitches, so now I'm going to repeat the 6 of the double crochet decreases, and then I'm going to follow it, of course, making sure you make a chain after that last decrease, and then you do the 5 puff stitches, and then again back to the decreases. And we're going to do this all the way across the row, and I will show you how this row ends. Once you come to the last 6 stitches, we're going to work 3 double crochet decreases. That's 1, 2, 3, and the last one, and 3. So let's pause and take a look at our first row with the ripple or the wave. But so we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those puff stitch waves across the row. Now, if I should have said this earlier, but if you want to have more waves across, you can simply add 17 stitches for each wave you'd like to add, and just add that to the original starting chain. Or you could use a multiple of 17 plus 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the next row. We're going to chain 1 and turn, and we are simply going to single crochet in each stitch, or each of the 3 decreases. Now we're going to single crochet in the chain 1 spaces and in the top of those puff chains. Okay, I'll do this with you for a few of the stitches here. So we're 1 single crochet in those chain spaces and 1 in the top of the puff chains as we go across that section. And I hope you're enjoying the variegation of this color. It's so beautiful, and I'm so looking forward to working with the different colors and see how it looks as the colors change. Okay, so after working in that chain 1 space, then we work in those top of those 6 decrease stitches. And this is going to be heavy on the counting, so you do need to be careful about that. Okay, so now we're back to our chain space, top of the puff stitch, chain space, top of the puff stitch, etc. I'll just finish this puff stitch section with you. And chain space, top of the puff. And notice that I'm not going into the chain, but into the big space here, so that's not confusing. After you work that last one, and then we go back to those decreases. So go ahead and work these single crochets all the way across the row. As we near the end of this row, I just wanted to work the last 3 stitches with you, which is over those 3 double crochet decreases. 1, 2, and that last stitch. And now we're going to chain 1, and we are going to turn. So after turning, we're ready to begin row number 4, and this is going to be something called the low back rib, and we are only going to work in the back loop of the stitch. Now we are going to skip the first stitch, but this is not going to affect our stitch count because we are going to work in the remaining stitch in single crochets in all the stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip the first stitch, and working only in the back loop, we're going to work a slip stitch. And make sure you don't work this too tightly as you go across. Slip stitch, make sure it's just kind of a relaxed slip stitch. And we're just going to do this all the way across in every single crochet. Again, working only in the back loop of the stitch as you go. So work that all the way across, and then I will show you what to do after you complete that row. I'm going to go ahead and work the last stitch with you, slip stitch, and notice we are not working in that turning chain. So now we're going to turn. We're going to chain 1, and then we are going to work in the remaining loop of that single crochet from 2 rows past, and we're going to work a single crochet in the remaining loop. I will try to go slowly here for you so you can find where that loop is. Okay. Might be a little tricky. I'm going to turn this to the back side facing, and you can see the loop right here. Okay, just wanted to be careful to point that out because this can be a little tricky. Okay, and just make sure you do a single crochet in each of these stitches across, and the stitch count should remain the same. It should be 120 stitches across. And you can see the nice little texture, the raised texture. Let's see if I'll show it this way, that adds to this design. And I think once we get all these other colors into this design, it's going to be stunning. So go ahead and work this all the way across the row. At the end of row 5, I wanted to work that last stitch with you, which is right here. It's very important that you get every last stitch so that the stitch count remains the same. Now let's take a look at what we have. Okay, now what we are going to do for this throw is we are going to repeat rows 2, 3, which was that single crochet row, 4, which was row 1 of the low back rib, and then 5, which is the single crochets worked in the remaining loop. Again, this is row 2 of the low back rib. So again, we're going to repeat rows 2, 3, 4, and 5 repeatedly. Should you need additional stitch support to review rows 2 through 5, I'll put a time mark right across the bottom of the screen there so that you can easily return to that part in the video. I also wanted to show you how these puff stitches will be lining up. They will be lining up more vertically, not at angles. So I just wanted you to see that. 4, 5. This is with the back side facing. Also notice that when you're doing the puff stitches, that is actually the back side. And for the record, this is the front side facing, which shows the more traditional back side of the double crochet stitch, but this is just the way this pattern works, and it helps you to see these puff stitches better. And let me just show you just how they line up with each other. They don't line up like this. Keep an eye out for this as you go across, and if you're finding that they are shifting a bit or getting off center, then perhaps you have skipped some stitches and may need to reevaluate your stitch count and where you are on that particular row. I am nearing the end of the first color, but as you can see, there should be plenty of extra yardage in this kit should your gauge be just slightly larger than mine, but I think it's still important that you follow the gauge as closely as possible, especially if you're using kit yarn. The piece that I am working on is approximately 30 inches wide, so that will be the width of this lap blanket is 30 inches. And I am getting just over 5.5 inches from the starting chain to what I have here. But each section, as I'm going to teach this project, will be approximately 5.25 inch to 5.33 inch long, just the way I am recommending that you handle the color changes. Now, if you're working on this with your own yarn selection, you are a free agent to do this however you please. Now I've gone ahead and selected the second darkest yarn in the color progression, and I'm going to show you how to join this at the end of this row, and I'm going to show you that I just completed row number 5 so that we will have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 repeats for each color section. So let me go ahead and I'm going to pull this last stitch out, but honestly the color change is going to be so minimal here. So for that last stitch, before I complete that last stitch, I'm going to bring in my color change and just bring that through like so. Make sure you leave a nice tail here. And I am going to continue working on this pattern. I'll go ahead and trim this yarn back a bit. Now, if you want to, just to secure the yarn for now, what I'm going to do is tie a loose knot. All right, so I'm going to turn And I'm just going to continue repeating this pattern with my chain 2 and begin row 2 again with that double crochet and whoops, let's just wrap it once and my decreases. So I just wanted to show you that. So I'm going to go ahead and complete the rest of this throw with the different color changes, and then I'll show you what I have. Okay, so while this project is complete as it stands, some of you may wish to work an additional optional edging along the edges. To be quite honest, I've never done this on a ripple because ripples are characteristically worked without edging. However, I am going to show you how you can work an edging along both sides of your project. Now, I have also maintained the numbering system for my remaining yarn so that I won't have to try to figure out which one was which. So if you have a way of remembering which order that you use these, that would be particularly helpful. And if not, you could still probably line them up, from darkest to lightest without too much of a problem. So let's go ahead and I will start row 1 of the optional edging. So now we're going to start edging row number 1. I'm starting at the darker or darkest end, and I'm with the darkest yarn. And we're going to match the yarn as we go along. So we're going to start, we're still using our size H crochet hook, and I'm going to begin with a slip knot, and I'm going to chain and just join the yarn with the chain 1, and we are going to, I'm actually going to crochet over the extra strand as we go along here, and I'm going to crochet 4 single crochets for each section here. So a total of 20 single crochets using this color, and that should bring you right about to this point, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then you see the next ridge here, so that's when we begin our next set of 4 right in front of that. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can see that looks very even. Now, if yours is not looking as even as this, perhaps you need to try a different size crochet hook, but I'm hoping that it would, using the same hook that you used for the throw, should work out for you. Okay, so I'm going to do the next section. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, by being very careful and deliberate to do it in this way, the stitching should come out very even. So let's do the next 4 sections, and I'm almost, the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, crocheting over that thread, 4, and then 4 more. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're not going to finish that last stitch, but let's double check to make sure that we have 20 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now this 20th stitch we are going to complete with the next color, which is the next darkest color. And also notice I am not going to cut this yarn. I'm going to just let it remain attached, and the reason is we have 2 more rows to work on this edging, and it'd be a lot easier if you can just leave these just kind of in the background or nearby so that they don't get tangled. It'll just be a lot easier. It'll save you from having to tie 1,000,001 knots later on. So we're going to join this next color. Okay. And we're going to continue in the next 20 stitches. So 1, let's do that one again, 2, 3, 4. Sorry about that noise. And I'm going to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and now notice that the yarn is getting ready to change. 17, 18, 19, and this is the stitch that we don't want to complete. So on stitch number 20 of that second color, I've gone ahead and gotten the next color change and just pull that through on that 20th stitch, just like that, and then just continue on all the way along the edge of the blanket, changing the color as you go along. After having worked my 20 stitches with the lighter color, since we did have an extra row at the very beginning, go ahead and work one more at the end, so you'll have 21 single crochets with the lighter color. Now we're going to turn, going to chain 1. Let's go ahead and turn. Now be very careful, as you can see, because we still have a lot of strands attached that we're going to be like picking up like right here all along the row. So you probably don't want to move this project around too much, but maybe complete these rows in one place so that the yarns don't become tangled. Okay, so now working in the back ridge only, just the way we've been working across, go ahead and start in the second stitch. And again, because that chain 1 will lay in place, let me show you, of where that first stitch was, and it'll just give a smoother transition. So go ahead and work the low back rib, working only slip stitches in that back loop, and do this until you have, we skipped the first one, so you're going to do this 20 times, and you're going to do 20 stitches in each color change as we go across. So I'm going to go ahead and work these with you and make the color change and show you what that will look like as you go across. Okay, just a few more to go, and I know the color change is coming because I see the yarn. Make sure that you don't go past that point. It would be very easy to do, and I would probably do that myself if I wasn't focused on this right now. Okay. Okay, here's the last stitch. You can tell because it's a little on the loose side. And let's go ahead and do that. And then now we're going to bring this to the back. And we're going to bring the next color in. Just like that. And continue along for 20 stitches until we get to the next color change. So now I have worked 20 stitches along the end, which is where the darker color is. I'm going to go ahead and work an additional slip stitch at the end in that turning chain. I think it'll just make it look more even as we go. So we're going to turn, and this is the last row, or row number 3 of the edging. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work a slip stitch in the remaining stitch. Go ahead and pick up that turning chain loop and start in that one, because that way it'll be even along the edge. And then we're going to work in the remaining loop of those single crochets 2 rows ago. And again, we're going to, after we work that first one to start with, we're going to work 20 stitches until we get to where we change the yarn color. After working those additional 20 stitches, and then I come to the place where I'm going to be changing my yarn color. So I'm going to go ahead into that single crochet, pull up a loop, and then I switch over to the new color just like that, and then continue on with the single crochets across. Okay, and you just want to make sure that you don't skip any loops as you go. And I'm going to go ahead and just work this all the way across, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to just work on hiding the loose strands afterwards. Now, should you wish to untangle yourself from the yarns that are no longer needed, you can go ahead and cut the color that we just finished with, and then I'll show you how to hide these loose strands once we are finished. Okay, and also I'm going to show you how to begin the other side. So after working this all the way across, and in order to minimize this protruding, I'm going to end the last stitch with a slip stitch. Give it a chain and a tug. Then I'm going to trim my yarn just like this. So let's take a look at this edging. I think it is very much worth doing. And it may save you a little bit on the curling. If you find that the edging is curling on you at all, this particular wool blocks extremely well. So you can just wet block it and it should lay flat for you, no problem whatsoever. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you where to join the yarn on the other side. So since we need to work this with the front side facing, we're going to start with the light colored yarn on the other side. Let's go ahead and stick my hook in here and get my little slip knot so I can join with the chain. And then we're just going to work our single crochets in the same manner that we did on the other side. Okay, now I am working one single crochet for this row here, but then in between I'm going to work the standard 20 stitches for each color section, and just repeat rows 1 through 3 of the edging, just like I showed you on the other side. Now I'm sure you have several loose strands that need to be hidden, and let me give you just a quick tutorial on how to do this. This is where the yarn needle comes in handy, or a darning needle, and we're going to thread the yarn. And with the back side facing you, from here we can run this under the stitches. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down and going to run it underneath the single crochets that we used as the option, if you used an optional edging. And if you didn't, you can easily run it under the single crochets on this side here. But I'm just going to hide these over here just by running them under the stitches. And I like to do this for at least an inch, and if you do it for a little bit more, that's going to guarantee that it's not going to be pulling out anytime soon. Okay, and that actually should be pretty good. Then we're going to bring that under, pull it, and then I give a little pull back on it like this, and then I'm going to clip this with the pair of sharp scissors ever so carefully. Make sure that you don't clip your stitches, and that strand is gone, and that is well hidden. So just wanted to show you that. So go ahead and hide all those loose strands, and I will show you what this looks like.
Well, I hope you enjoyed making Emily's wave blanket with me today. If you did, please comment below. I would love to hear from you. God bless. Bye-bye.